set her on fire? 2? Who else? 4? 4? Why do you think? Let me get a mic up here. Why do you think?
He's shady looking.
That's what they said.
One, he's shady looking. 2, he looks like he don't like women. 3, she didn't have enough money, so he robbed her. So he's shady looking. I know he did.
You got the whole story figured out by looking at somebody.
Please.
And she had on red shoes, and he didn't like that because it reminded him of his mother. And who thinks a different number? Number what? Over here in the orange shirt? What do you think?
I think it's number 3 because he's dressed too perfect. I'm saying he's dressed perfect, like he has something to hide. And basically that's it.
So
I don't know.
Dressed sloppy?
Yeah, because if you really did the crime, I figure you guys would bring him out here trying to make him look like he's decent looking, you know? So I think it's number 3. That's all I gotta say.
Really? All right, well, let's find out. Let's go back to the armed robber question. Which one of you, step forward, please, was an armed robber? Our British friend was correct, Doctor. Wow.
So our friend from England.
Our friend from England was correct. And so tell everybody the situation.
Yeah.
Actually, tell me your name first.
My name's Al, and I was convicted of robbing a man 15 years ago, and I served prison time, and I've long since straightened out, and I've cleaned up my life, and I help a lot of people. I've saved a lot of lives. I've done a lot for a lot of people.
Good, Al.
I've launched a lot of people's careers.
Good for you, Al.
People say that I'm a true success story.
Do people still judge you by how you look, though? One of our audience members guessed that it was you. Do you find that happening a lot to you on the street, or no?
Hardly ever, because I don't have any jailhouse characteristics or mannerisms or anything like that. I shed it all, and I'm back in mainstream society now and everything, and that's an old closed chapter in my life that I chose to put behind me, and I ain't got time to be bitter. I have a life to live.
Yeah, good for you. Good, Al. Step back in the line for me. And now we're going to find out, okay, so whoever this is, step forward. Which one of you robbed a woman and set her on fire? Maybe I should rephrase the question. Which one of you was falsely accused of robbing a woman and setting her on fire? Ooh. This is Calvin. Have a seat, please, because your story gets a little more intricate. And thank you to the 2 actors on the end have not done any crimes. They're innocent. Number 1, you must just look nice, because nobody picked you for anything. My Rasta friend, he's good. Calvin, hi. You were falsely accused of robbing a woman and setting her on fire?
Yes, I was.
And served time. Tell us about it.
Well, in 1983, while I was in college, I was arrested for a crime that happened in New York. At the time of the crime, I was living in Virginia. It was a burglary, you know, robbery. They robbed a woman, set the place on fire, and then they left. And a year and a half later, they came out to the college I was attending and arrested me.
And that was out of the blue for you.
Yeah, that was out of the blue for me, you know.
So what did they arrest you based on? Somebody identified you? How did it happen?
It was a couple of versions as to why they chose me, but the one that always sticks out is they said they heard the name Calvin during the commission of the crime.
Oh. And so they just picked some random Calvin? How did they get you? There's a lot of Calvins in the world.
Well, I feel personally the investigating officer, once he heard the name Calvin, then he figured Calvin.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Your attorney, Robert Boyle, is joining us, too. Mr. Boyle, hi, how are you? Thank you for being here. Wow. Unbelievable. I guess the question is, how did they ultimately find out that he was innocent and release him? What was the evidence? How did they figure out they were wrong?
What happened here was it was more of a systemic version of racism. Because what happens in the criminal justice system is, I believe, you know, it has a lot of the racist characteristics of society as a whole. It's a reflection of that. And what happened in Calvin's case, the police and the prosecutors targeted him after, as he explained, with the name Calvin. They then systematically suppressed evidence which showed that he was innocent. The woman who identified him at trial gave prior statements to the police and to the prosecutors at material really variance to her trial testimony. As was under the Constitution, they were supposed to turn that over to the defense. They didn't do that and instead allowed Mr. Boyette here to be convicted and to serve, really it was about 12 and a half years in prison for something he did not do. And it was only this year in 2001 that he got a reversal of his conviction and was freed.
Shopping, it comes through customs. Black women for a long time was 20 times more likely to be stopped coming through customs than white women. So, I mean, racial profiling is all over in our society. And there are some parts that I totally missed the boat on in my book, because I didn't even talk about education, medicine. You know,
Well, it's such a broad problem.
It really is.
How do you address it all in one book?
You know, it's hard to. And one of the things I always say is there's not enough trees to create enough paper to do the encyclopedia, everything you need to know about racial profiling.
Right.
That's why it's bigger than just this one book. That's why I invite people who are writers, who have stories to tell. In areas that I can't do it, I invite them to write stories too, to help write their book. And whether it is, you know, medicine, well, I don't know, I can't get into all of that, but it's like, it's there, it's out there.
And you know, not only black men, obviously black women or anybody who a cab driver thinks is a threat to them, they won't stop for. It happens to me when I'm in my hoodie and my, you know, bundled up for winter and they can't see my face, they don't know I'm a woman or any of that. They shoot right down the street.
But keep in mind,
later, pick up someone else.
I think you got to keep in mind that everybody tends to think that it's just a black problem, but it's not, because white people get profiled as well. You know, I remember there was a lady who came up and said, you know, my grandson was racially profiled. And I was like, huh? How does that happen? You know, but it turns out that her son adopted hip-hop culture. You know, he had long hair. He listened to reggae. He had black friends. And he was profiled. So to me, it's
like a rapper friend Joe in the beginning.
Wow. I mean, to me, it's everybody's affected. And now, after this whole September 11th incident, now Arab Americans are being profiled.
I think that was happening before that. I just think it has brought it to our attention.
It brought it to a whole nother level.
We're not even just talking about the United States. I have an audience member who said in the break that you have a story of racial profiling in Australia?
Yeah, that's right. I'm from Melbourne,
welcome to the States. First of all, what's the story?
Well, basically, I've got a lot of black friends as well in Australia, and one of my friends has dreads. I'm actually a lawyer. He's a doctor. And if we're out at 4 in the morning, we have very, very little chance of getting a cab unless it's at, like, a regulated cab stop. So, I mean, you get that everywhere in the world.
You've seen them pass right by you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they'll pick up girls down the street, or even guys who are dressed in suits and stuff. But if we're out in our clubbing gear, no chance at all.
Again, it's like the threat that you seem to pose. Right next to you, if you'll pass the mic, is my stylist here on the show. And actually, my stylist from MTV, too. Lisa Sellers is here. And the other day, you want to tell the story? You want to tell the story?
Sure, I'll tell the story. There are so many different stories.
Well, she was working on behalf of the show for me, getting close.
Absolutely. It's always when it's for Ananda.
I know. It's me.
But this particular day, I was at Henry Bendell's, pulling for you.
One of the most expensive stores in New York.
Very astute department store here in New York. And a white woman was getting out of a taxi. And immediately I ran towards it, because seeing the door open, traditionally when I see a taxi and there's no one in it, chances are I'm not going to get it, especially depending upon how I'm dressed. If it's baggy, not. If slim, maybe. Yeah. But when I saw her, I was like, oh, here's a chance. So my assistant and I began to run for the taxi. Upon her exit, please don't shut the door. She didn't shut the door. We approached the taxi. My foot is literally on the side of it, and he pulls off. Door wide open and everything. He was insistent upon not having, in my opinion, black people in this taxi. And it's because it's happened so much, I know the game, and I knew it was going to happen. So I pointed out to the gentleman that had walked us out of the store, a white man, and to the white woman that stood there in amazement at what had happened. I said, he's going to go, as far as he can, leave his light off, and as soon as he thinks we're not looking and he sees an opportunity to make money, he's going to turn his light on.
And as if you were in a movie.
As soon as he pulled to the light, he sat there. As soon as the light turned green, he pulled off, saw a white woman on the side, turned his light on, picked her up, and went on about his business. Yes. And it happened again just last evening.
And she, with 4 Henry Bendel bags, don't spend all kinds of money, can't afford a cab ride.
It has no bearing whatsoever.
Wow.
None whatsoever.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So, obviously, thank you for sharing that. All 3 of you, thank you for your story. Obviously, we wanted to do our own little experiment to prove or disprove, depending on what happens, this whole cab phenomenon of black people being passed or women being passed. Who gets passed, really, is the question. We'll tell you the answer after this break. Come on back. Welcome, everybody ready? Randy! Now married, 6 months pregnant, Randy is definitely not a little girl anymore. But instead of just talking to Brandy and learning from her lessons in stardom, I want to help Brandy figure out how to be the best new mom she can be. We have lots of advice, great surprises, and we even get to talk to her own mother.
It's very difficult being a mom and a woman.
A celebration of everything Brandy on the next Ananda. And still coming up in this show. Here's what we did. We took two men, John and Bobby, one white, one black, and we sent them to Hill Cab.
This is the one that kind of annoyed me. Every time they were in the street, they always went to his side. You know, if they were on my side of the street, they came to me. But when they were in the middle, they had a decision to make, they chose him. And, you know, it happens all the time, but it just, you know, every time it happens, it just pisses me off.
If you let the cab may pass them, and we sent them to Hill Cabs. Let's first meet John and Bobby. Come on out, guys. Hey, y'all. How are you?
How are you, Ananda?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, let me show them the experiment first, okay?
Okay.
All right, first experiment had John stand north of Bobby to see if he'd get passed up. This means if you're not from New York, a lot of streets go one way, and that means he was ahead of him in the line, all right? Let's see what happens.
On this one, we're standing close together, but this one I didn't think anything was going to happen, and it didn't because